That one?
All right. Don't worry, you're not gonna see yourself. Okay. This way. Up here. Toolbar out. Oops. Out of the way. Beauty. Okay. Weird. In person. Yeah. First time I can't hide behind a camera like that. So thanks for all for coming. I'll give a shout out quickly, of course, to thank you to Marcia, Royce, and Bryan for being on our panel this morning. Let's give a quick hand. But before we get into that, again, I think you saw the email, a quick couple reminders. We got La Roca party. When is that?
July 5th.
Good job, everyone. Usually I say something like that, it's just an echo. And so anyways, it's good. Anyway, so it's July 5th, so make sure to get RSVP so we can make sure we have enough food and all that kind of stuff. That would be wonderful, or more importantly, not too much food. Essentially. And then summer hours starting next week. I totally screwed up my day this morning too. It's so the Thursday before the long weekend, that's when we're shutting down earlier, and it'll be 2 o'clock on that day, and then every Friday after that for July and August, all the offices done 2 o'clock. So have your deposits in please by noon, so we can get those in and send our staff home, because summer's too beautiful, right? Send me home. So I don't like working on Fridays, so neither should they. And then so as we the topic for today, right, we know the market is shifting. I don't think it's shifted, it's in the shifting process. We don't know exactly where it's going to exactly end up, but before I kind of get into, I'm just going to set the stage a little bit, so just so you can get a little bit of some stats on your side if you're looking at things here. They can see my screen. So this is quickly, just again, if you guys need to go to stats, residential, I did areas in this example, I just did 1 to 9, and I think I did residential, single family detached home. You can muck around as much as you want, right? I just did year to date, and I sorted by month, and you can pick a stat, right? Just to see the trend, what's going on month to month right now. Month to month is probably too slow. You got to go week to week. But for this example, the shortest I can go on this page is month to month. So as an example, you can go, average days on market, what's going on, average days on market, right? Just so you can see here, it hasn't been anything drastic, but what's the trend? Right? Climbing, right? We know that, right? You can go to, if you want to go to average sale price. That's it for June so far. Right. I had an agent call me last night talking about the vendor got multiple offers, which is great. They got, I can't remember how much it was over, but they declined them all. Not enough. And so, my point was, why would you ever tell somebody like how is that conversation happening at the very beginning? We'll get into that. I'm sure I'll let them talk about it. But I said, well, here's the chart. There you go. That's a good one to use, right? If you need to beat somebody up over price reductions, things like that. Full price to list price ratio. There's June. Okay. Now again, what have I been saying the entire time? Right? It looks like, oh my God, what a cliff. Yeah, it's still averaging 102.5% over list price, which is a very good healthy real estate. Like that's great, right? If you told somebody that 5 years ago, we'd all be jumping for joy, right? So again, I'm sure you guys are going to talk a bit about that, but it's just some really easy ways to show the statistics. Also set the stage. The market is shifting, it's changing. The peak, you saw the peak there. Like we're not peaking anymore. Okay, the peak is over. So now we have to adjust to a shifting market, and for a lot of us, for many of us, we've been pre-pandemic, but for a lot of the realtors who came in the last 2 years, this is the first market you're going to see where you're writing conditions. You have to actually go back to your textbooks and learn how to write a condition. Right? Subject to sales, time clauses. We're actually going to have to negotiate. You're actually going to have to get good at your job. We have to get better at our jobs, right? Because it doesn't take a lot of skill to present 20 offers, right? So, the bridge, right? So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to these guys. All right, I'll get rid of that.
Thank you. I was like, that's lateral.
She just look at your.
problem.
There you are again. You got yourself everywhere, right? So, right, I'll just leave that for you. So, we're gonna start off, just a little bit of, I got the question. They're on my phone. I'm prepared.
Oh, God, we don't have enough time.
That's the next note I got.
I didn't want to be on that panel.
So, you know what, people, just a quick start in case anybody doesn't know these guys. I'm sure many do, but just quick little introductions. So I'll just quickly start with it. First guy to my left here, Brian. I guess quick intro. How long you been in the business? What were you doing before? How long you been in it? That kind of jazz. What's your story?
7 years in the business. I started in March of 2015. And before this, I was a senior marketing manager at Chorus Entertainment. I worked in television and radio, 50-50 kind of between the two. Got into real estate because of the lifestyle. Love meeting new people, love helping people, and I love the fact that there's no glass ceiling. Yeah, that's what I did before. 7 years in them.
Right on.
I'm Royce Finley. I've been in business for 7 and a little bit. I owned some businesses before. Some failed, some were successful. But the failures are, I think, are what helped me the most because, succeeding in a business, I very often don't think you can just go from, level to success. You need some failures and you need some tougher times, and usually that will persevere and get you there. So that's me.
Cool. Right on. Marcia?
Okay, Marcia Bergen. I've actually been licensed for 21 years. Yes, got licensed at 12. So the first 10 years of my career, though, I actually was in the commercial real estate. So I worked as the director of marketing and leasing at 201 Portage and the Richardson portfolio. Prior to that, I worked 10 years in the legal industry as a tax and real estate paralegal and managed a small law firm. So last almost 11 years, I've been strictly residential real estate and sales.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys for coming. Really do appreciate it, especially driving all the way from the Great Lake North there.
You're from the north?
Yeah, we got good close from the north. Justin, he's from the Interlake for crying out loud, so he drove me. Gas prices, he should have a little pocket. That's dedication, I like it. Yeah. So let's talk about the specifically, let's say the last 2 years, right? Working during the pandemic, working with sellers, you guys are probably listing agents. What were the biggest challenges dealing with sellers over the last 2 years? We're going to get to the shifting market, but what was the last 2 years? What are the biggest challenges? What are the things that to overcome?
You go first.
Some of the biggest challenges, I think some of the biggest challenges I felt more recently was pricing for agents and buyers' mentalities. Their mentality was always that something's going to go 50 or 80 or 100 grand over, but if you almost priced it fairly where some of the comps were, then you're not getting that leverage because buyers and agents had awful mentalities that everything was going to go skyrocketing. So if something was priced and it was worth, $4, $410, $420, you priced at $399, you're not going to get those showings unless you maybe price at $369, where you could kind of capture your 400 people and capture the people that were just over. So I found pricing was interesting, but I always, is maybe you probably shouldn't have been always pricing a little bit on the lower side, even though the comps were supporting something.
Okay, we're not saying to MSC.
So I think you've got to kind of.
This is low and watch it go.
Right. You have to price to, the mentality and the perspective. It's, I've always said real estate's very psychological. People tend to be very all the kind of same in their thought process. So you kind of just got to think outside the box a little bit. And so I thought pricing, I don't think it was necessarily difficult. I just think you just had to
Challenge for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with Royce. The pricing was definitely challenging. So I found that I spent a lot more time really understanding my clients' needs, because again, a scenario can happen like, last night, where people, their neighbors are saying everything's going 100 above and theirs didn't, theirs went 40 above, and they want to decline offer. So really being in tune with what your clients' expectations are and what their financial needs really are, because somebody understand their tolerances. Some sellers had a high tolerance, higher, to be able to stomach that type of pricing, and some didn't. I'm not super tech savvy, so also getting in line with Zoom and really exploring what people's tolerance was with COVID was really, really tough. So rearranging your schedule and just found that people, first year not so bad, but sort of the last 12 months, their tolerance with COVID pushed them over the edge, and just managing that was probably our biggest challenge. Was my biggest challenge.
I think for me, if any of you know me, I'm a super down to earth guy, and I run my business a lot based on vulnerability and just being real. And honestly, that was my biggest challenge. It was a lot surrounding being vulnerable with sellers and just saying, looking them in the eye and being very brutally honest with them and saying this: I have no idea what your house might sell for. And that's a really, yeah, like, let's be real. I mean, that's a really difficult conversation to have with a seller. But I found that having that level of vulnerability and explaining to them that, listen, if we get 6 educated agents that write good offers here, your house might not actually sell for as high as it should. But if we get someone in here who, no, hang on, though, maybe doesn't have as good of a pulse on the market, and has a client who's in a vulnerable position who needs to buy, they're going to be willing to offer a price that is ludicrous. And so I really made a point to explain that to sellers and say, listen, like, in this market, there is some rhyme and there is some reason. But you do get those ones where, you get 2 offers and it sells for 80K over. You got one offer that's 10K below and one 80K over. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. Or you get one where there's 21 offers and they're all at 350. You know what I mean? So I think the unpredictability was really difficult. But like I said, that not positioning yourself as the expert is something that really exposed me as a team leader. And I really dove down into some other stuff I'll get into in a bit, but was just really knowing the hyper local market within that area. That was a really big challenge for me. Like, I'm big on stats. So, if I go into a neighborhood, I'm going to know exactly what everything sold for. I'm going to know their average days on market, who the listing agent was, what their marketing package looked like. But in this market, the last 2 years, it didn't really matter what your marketing strategy was. The seller didn't give a crap. They just wanted to sell 100K over. So, yeah. So vulnerability was tough.
Okay. So, a couple of things that came out of those answers, some little off script here. It's okay. I know you guys would be great. But what was the, so 2 questions. One, how much did you have to coach your people throughout the listing process? Like, how many times you talk to them, like setting expectations, reaffirming expectations? Because I always found, they're talking to the neighbors. Well, the neighbors sold out when they go to work the next day and they're talking about how much they got. So what was that battle like, and how much you get to coach your agents on a regular basis?
Your agents or your clients?
Oh, sorry, your clients, your sellers.
I don't think I had to coach them at all, because the market just did what it did. I don't think you have to be a really great agent to sell a house in the last 2 years. People, I call it the 3 Ps. They just put it on MLS, take photos, and then just pray that it sells, and it sells for 80 or 100 grand over. I don't think you have to be talented or good at your job to do that. My dog probably could have sold a house.
I think you might have. Oh, yeah. So,
I know my daughter definitely did.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I started real estate 7 years ago, it was not like this. So I'm kind of going into
we'll get there.
reason for this, but
Circle back for that. Yeah. Marcia, did you find it to stay your sellers years a lot? Or?
What I found is that, like, in the last 2 years, partly because I was being coached as well. So I really have changed how I deal with my sellers. So I set up a lot of my communication expectations at the first meeting so that they know exactly what to expect from me. I explained to them how feedback works. Like, in this market, we weren't getting any. And I'd say to them, listen, we ask for it every day after there's a showing, but if I don't get it, I don't chase it down unless we're struggling to sell. So really having those conversations up front saved me from guiding them nonstop. the toughest part was a lot of people obviously moving out of their homes, right? So managing agents was actually a lot more difficult than managing sellers. The problems that were happening in the homes because your clients aren't there, those were more, that's actually the bulk of what we dealt with. And as far as like our sellers, like I said, like I really focused with my sellers in this crazy market on making sure. A lot of people thought, oh great, you can throw up a sign, be on MLS, your house is going to sell 100 grand over. I actually felt differently. I took a different approach where, okay, so now we actually have 100 people looking at your house, where say 3 years ago we would have had 20. It is more important today in this market, even though it's crazy, to really be prepared for your sale, because now we have like hyper focused buyers. And that actually was tough for a lot of sellers to get, because they talk to their coworkers at work and they're like, oh yeah, everything's selling. So keeping people focused on that and getting them to buy into sort of our marketing plan, which is focusing on staging, focusing on, sending the cleaners through, window cleaners, and making sure that you show like top shelf all the time. And I feel like that actually did really pay off for our sellers as well.
We took a very different approach. We doubled down on automation. We talk to our sellers every single day. The sellers hear from us. So one day they'll get an automated message, the next day they'll get a text message, and the third day they'll get a call. 3 days in a row, communication, boom, 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 and you train them. You tell them that. Just be honest, be vulnerable. Hey, this is how our system works. You have automated messages for showings. You have automated showing schedules that you get every single day. Then you'll get a text message from me, just a quick check-in. And if you don't feel like replying, that's fine. And then you'll get a phone call from me. If you don't answer, I'm going to assume everything's fine. And I just communicate those expectations with the seller right from the get-go. And the thing I always ask for from my sellers is feedback on that communication. Say, is that too much for you? Is that not enough for you? And I ask them what they want. And oftentimes, sellers will tell you how often they need to be spoken with. And I find it great. You just leave the ball in their court and say, listen, this is how our system works. If you don't want to hear from me every day, that's completely fine. I would love it if I didn't have to call you every day. But if that's what you need, I'm happy to do it. Most sellers will say, hey, send me a text every 3 or 4 days, or hey, send me a text every second day. But all of our stuff is automated for showings, for showing schedules. I say it's automated. It's not foolproof, but yeah, that's how often we talk to sellers. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
So with the shifting market now, where have you noticed the shift the most? I'm curious, is there any particular areas, price ranges? You guys are obviously, you're on the street talking to buyers and sellers every single day. Where's the biggest shifts? Have you noticed any trends?
I would say for myself, I've noticed everything that's sort of at that million plus. It's definitely taken a step back. People are a lot more conscious, I think, with interest rates rising. Buyers seem also a lot more fussy. So I can't say if it's just as a result of the interest rates or they're just burnt out. And now that they have more inventory, they're just sort of taking a step back. We find that our buyers aren't pulling the trigger as quickly, saying no to a lot more houses than they were before. So I would say that that's really it. As far as where we've noticed it, I think right now we're relying on stats a lot. Like when I'm, going into a listing appointment, I am really relying on the stats. I print them, I take them with me, because I think that, like Royce said, the last 2 years, literally, you didn't have to have your finger on the pulse. Anybody could throw up a sign and sell a house. It's not that way anymore. It's really the importance of understanding what is your competition. I tell my sellers, I watch your competition every single day. So that if we need to make adjustments, push an offer date back, like I'm a lot more hands-on than I was before based on competition. We're not looking so much at the gap between what was your list price and what was your sale price. We are definitely pricing a lot more accurate and sometimes dialing it back a bit. Again, really dependent on the seller's tolerance. So just, a lot more open communication right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll skip you. Says the guy that's like the worst dressed out of everybody.
Except you're prepared. I don't.
That's true. That's funny. Honestly, I'm just gonna tell people what I see personally. My team hears me say this all the time. All markets are hyper local. I think I've said that once already. I'm finding like all price categories are dropping off on the sheer number of showings. Like all price categories, it's not one specific, I'm with you. I wrote down 650 to 1.2 million, kind of, well, that's the ceiling in Winnipeg, 1.5 million-ish, but that has really dropped off big time, like seeing anywhere between 60 to 65% less showings on my stuff.
Mhm.
That's kind of in that upper price range. And I'm seeing the feedback, because I'm a phone guy, I ask for a ton of feedback via text and phone calls. And the feedback is uber critical. Hey, you know, there's a ding in the wall, or hey, it's not as clean as it should be. Whereas before that was, you know, forgiven. You know, a hot market covers a multitude of sins. Well, you know, the market we're in now doesn't cover those sins anymore, so to speak, right? But just some neighborhoods that I jotted down, which I find are extremely active still. And they have always been active, even when the market was a bit more regular, but anything 1C, 1D, 1F, 1H, 1G, 1J, 1JW, kind of those inner city, River Heights, Tuxedo communities, Charleswood. Two neighborhoods I'm seeing a big drop off in, 5C and 5E. And that was just ones that stuck out to me personally, because those are some of the neighborhoods where I've had some listings recently and some buyers recently. But yeah, buyers are becoming a lot more picky, for sure.
I've seen it like crazy. You know, we're listing anywhere between 4 and 8 houses a week, and there's some that are getting 5 offers and some that don't get any. So I have 2 offer dates tonight. I'm getting none on one, which is a little transfer on a buy level, and one on a piece of shit and heading. So like Brian was saying, like, you know, a good market covers those, you know, not so great houses, but it hasn't always been like that ever since I started. This last 2 years has been great. But you're really going to have to price accordingly and get some of those things fixed, or price it accordingly to having wood frame windows and an old roof and a 30-year-old furnace. You know, buyers are going to be a lot more picky. They have a lot more options now. And
So on that topic of pricing, then how are you recommending your pricing right now? Has it changed? I'm assuming it's changed in the last few weeks from where it was, you know, months ago. So
I think
where's the pricing going?
setting expectations on what your sellers are wanting. So if they want $400,000, I think you got to price it around that $400,000 range. And I use the media a lot in saying that you guys have watched the news, the market's dropping. So if you set that expectation, you kind of blame the media for a little bit of it, because they've been blamed for seems like a lot of stuff lately. You know, I just kind of put it in there, and you know, you price it kind of where the house should be worth. So in the last year, you know, you list a house and you've got 480, and you're like, this house is not worth $1 over 420. Well, now it's
So we're gonna pick on that for a second. When you're going, so let's say comps, again, I was looking at a chart in front of me as well. You're looking at comps. I mean, there's recent sales in March, April, May that have
I'm
that
pulling comps from November.
one comps from November.
November, December so the market kind of went up last summer, and then it kind of died off in October, November a little bit. And then as of end of January, February.
That's shot on this price ratio, but yeah.
Right, but you know, they're shooting up, right? So I'm starting to use stuff from, you know, a little bit more last year. Because I think that's where the houses are going to kind of come down to, and then they'll flatten out right around that spot.
I agree. That's kind of what we're doing too. Dialing it back when we're struggling with inventory, because that has been an issue. It's not so much right now. Really like stretching out to other neighborhoods that are similar lot value. So similar vibe, similar buyer, and expanding that, because it's really hard to sell your client on that type of pricing when I'm finding it's like sometimes you have like 2 houses. So we're really looking at a lot more of the data than we have like in the last 2 years.
I think you should also look at that when you're a buyer as well. Right. So
I was gonna say, on the flip side, if you're working with a
looking-
buyer, you try, oh, that
Right.
one sold in March for 600.
Yeah.
Right, so you're like, oh, that's good, let's write 600 because that's what it's worth. Well, maybe it's not. I want to check what happened late last year and see what the houses like that
Yeah.
were worth a little bit later before you jumped, you know, 16, 20% or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I don't do any of that. To be honest with you, I'm stealing that from Royce. Great point. Honestly, take pricing from November.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that. Honestly, great. I do some of it. I'm kidding. No, for me, pricing a house, I took a complete shift. I saw my business plateau in the beginning of 2020 and the end of 2021, big time, like huge plateau. It's because I was trying to create this deal machine, and it wasn't working. Straight up, it wasn't working. So my whole approach to pricing a house is built on trust, building trust with the seller and doing recon work. When you get a call from a seller and you see what their name is, find out as much as you possibly can about that seller, what they do for work, how many kids they have, what they drive, where they live, what they do for vacation. Find out as much as you possibly can so that when you go there, you speak their language. You can communicate with them on a level that they understand. They can absorb information in such a way that builds trust and builds trust really quickly. And I've really doubled down on this whole idea of relationship-focused real estate. And you can make fun of me for being fluffy all you want, but when your seller trusts you, it doesn't matter what noise is going on in the background. They're going to trust your pricing strategy. They're going to trust your marketing strategy. So for me, honestly, building that rapport with that client and doing that recon work with the client is more important now than ever, because with the market shifting and there being a lot of noise in the media, building that rapport and trust with the seller right now is more important than stats and figures in my mind, because houses are a commodity, homes are a rarity, and we don't sell houses, we sell homes. And I think a lot of times agents lose sight of that, and they go in and, you know, sorry, I shouldn't say I don't think agents, I say I lost sight of that. And I came in with this fancy marketing presentation and numbers and figures, and we sell homes for 121% of list price and blah, blah, blah. And they don't give a crap about that. All they care about is where their kids go to sleep, where their kids go to school, you know, how nice their yard is. So for me, a big thing is recon work and preparation. And like I said, obviously pricing sharp is great too, but pricing it sharp and having your seller trust you on the advice, they have to trust you as a human being first. And I think our team lost sight of that, and we've really seen a huge uptick in listings since we changed our approach. So yeah.
Awesome. I like having, that's what, one of the things I love most about this business, this industry, is that, I mean, there's however many people in this room and 3 people up there, and everyone's going to do it a little bit differently, right? And that's what's great, is there's not one right, not one wrong. It's the different perspectives and taking and plucking from each one or each person and whatever is, what's your thing, what jives with you and who you are and how you run your business. That's what you can take from it. So I really love the diversity in approaches and things like that. And that's why you guys are up there. I appreciate it. How about on that note, so you're looking at whether November or you're building trust and maybe, you know, combination of both. You got this kind of your repricing. How is that conversation looking? Because I'm unfortunately not in front of sellers anymore. So tell me about that conversation saying, okay, so like, are you even showing them the comps from May and March, or are you just going with November? Are you looking at, this is worth 600,000, but you know, its prices have gone down this much and we've got to adjust our expectations. What are they saying back to, are they accepting of it? Are they bullish on it? What's that conversation like right now when you're telling them, sorry, house is not worth as much as it was 2 months ago?
I'm honestly, to be honest, this is all kind of new for me as well. So I could come up here and tell you guys that I list all these houses and I know the right answer. But this has changed in literally 3 weeks. Like 4 weeks ago, that house that I was just giving you an example would have sold for 360, 370. It's not selling today. So I'm in the same kind of thing. I mean, the benefit that I have is I do a lot more of it. So I have my finger on that pulse and I can go week to week and kind of learn how the market's shifting that much more quickly. But you kind of have to have competence and confidence that you're going to get the job done, and communication. Earlier on in my career, I used to get listings transferred to me all the time, and the number one thing that sellers said when the listing got transferred is communication. Once the house didn't sell for a week or two, their agent was gone. It just disappeared. Right? So, you know, there's shitty conversations. I hate those conversations. I make them for Fridays. I call them. I let them know what we're going to do. So they're like, okay, so what are you going to do to change this? Well, we market everywhere possible in Manitoba. And now it just becomes 2 things. It's patience or price, right? So if you want to be patient, I'll be patient with you. We're going to continue to do the same thing. I'm a full-time marketing girl. Or we have to adjust your price. So early on, I always had people call back, the pictures aren't good enough, the write-up's not good enough, this, that, like, it's not my fault, right? I'm doing everything. So I had changed that where they're pre-approving the write-up, they're pre-approving the pictures, they're doing everything. So now everything's in their court, and if they're happy, now we're gonna go to the market. So when it doesn't sell, if it doesn't sell, when it doesn't sell, they can't just put everything back on me, right? We did this together, we're a team, right? I'm just helping. Yeah.
I'll echo what Royce said. Sorry, we'll go out of order again.
No, just no.
But yeah, like one of the things that I do, and I've always done, but it's more important now than ever, is I actually don't set the list price. How messed up is that, right? You have a realtor that doesn't set the price. My seller sets the price. I tailor my marketing package based on the pricing that they're comfortable with. Now, do I set the price? Yes, I set the price. I set the price, but you do it in such a way and you communicate with the seller when you're having those difficult conversations surrounding price point and you're showing them what's happening in the market. We will oftentimes come up with 3 different pricing strategies based on 3 different levels of comfortability with that particular seller. And we will lead them in the direction that we feel is best, but the seller arrives to that price point themselves. So that if for whatever reason things aren't going with price, I hate to say it, the conversation is much easier because the seller, you've already educated them, you've shown them all the stats, you've shown them pricing strategies, you've explained to them the advantages and disadvantages of each, so that when those disadvantages come to fruition, they understand, they already get it, right? So that's one thing that we do. We lead sellers in the right direction, but they actually will oftentimes set the price. Now, if their expectations are out of whack, do we say no to the listing? Absolutely not. No way. No, you take the listing, but we will pivot. Off market is extremely powerful right now. If a seller has unrealistic expectations, do something different to get a different result. Take it on an exclusive and pick up your freaking phone. Phone people for feedback, text agents for feedback on the specific property and on the price. You might get lucky. It might sell for that crazy high price. If it doesn't sell for that crazy high price, you call the seller and said, hey, tried it on the exclusive at this high price. The feedback was negative. We need to pivot before we hit the MLS. Otherwise, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So we will oftentimes discussing pricing with sellers and kind of curbing those expectations. We don't waste time on the MLS at a very high price. We'll test it exclusive first. And hey, we get lucky, you know, again, you get someone who's been burnt that'll pay that big price, great. But yeah, we have the sellers actually arrive at the price on their own, and we coach them in the right direction. As opposed to just, hey, here's the price, here's the commission, you know, list with me, you know, so.
Yeah, we do a bit of that too. As far as the pricing, discuss it. A lot of it is gut and experience. You know what I mean? You have to have that conversation again, build that trust. One of the things that we did last year, and I'm finding it right now, is becoming really, really important, is we developed like 3 tiers of listing packages. So we have like a gold package at 4%, we've got a platinum package at 5%, and the platinum plus is at 6%. And we're selling to our sellers right now and explaining to them the importance of how they look on the market and what we're prepared to do together with them as a team. So I'll give you an example. I have 2 listings coming up this month. They're both at 6%. But in that,
3.
that's right, I'm paying out 2, my friend. But the thing is that we've got painters going in. We've, you know, drywalled a 3rd floor attic. We're showing them that when you're actually invested with us, we're working with you. That has built a lot of trust because our sellers do see that, hey, like you're in this with us, number 1. Number 2, I do set the tone, and I have from the beginning of my career because I'm really bad at conflict management with sellers. So I always say to them, listen, we're a team. So when I get feedback, I give it to you how I get it. I don't sugarcoat it and similar. Like we've done things like exclusive when people are really out to lunch on price. I'll even like, you know, amp up the horribleness of the feedback so that it's not from you, it's somebody else. Same with the stats. Like, so keep the conversation about the facts and not about the feelings. So I'm finding like that part of it has been great. Also, in, you know, offering sellers the different pricing strategies as well as driving the bus on where do they want to see their house marketed, what do they want to invest, we're not having a struggle. Like I have listed, most of my listings this year have been at 5% plus. And people, when they feel like you're invested, they're on board with you. The other thing that we brought in, which wasn't a big deal until very recently, is we have a 7-day communication guarantee. So we actually, when I have a listing package, it's an actual guarantee. It looks like a form, we sign it off, because again, the feedback, when you look at people who are dissatisfied with, their agents, 96% is communication. So I think right now it's more important than ever. And on our 7-day communication guarantee, what we do is it's automated. Josh goes in and he shows people, okay, like here's what's listed, that's new competition. Here's what's sold. And then, and here's our marketing plan for this upcoming week. So giving them that communication is really, really important. Beginning of my career, I took a Richard Robbins, raw 3-day course. And it was funny, I was a brand new realtor. And the number one thing that he said is, if you want to be successful in this business, pick up your phone. And this last 3 weeks, I will say that, it comes to my mind so often, like, whereas maybe like last, 2 months ago, I might have called a client back. Now I pick up the phone, let people know you're there. It's just even that, I find like my sellers are like a lot more calm right now when they know that you're on the other end of the phone.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you have to be, again, I can only imagine a seller right now is going through, it's always stressful, right? But especially if it's in a shifting market, or did I miss the market, right? Or sellers say that, they gotta be stressed out right now.
Yeah,
not
they
knowing
are.
what's going on. So
They are.
being that on the wall for them, answering the phone, being that calm, steady voice, even though maybe you're panicking on the inside, duck on the water, right? Your water's crazy.
Yeah.
On the surface, you gotta be that calm presence for them. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So on the topic of kind of, commissions and marketing and things like that, are you seeing any shifts there? Like, are you finding like, oh, okay, like Royce mentioned earlier, it's like, oh, you could duct tape the sign of the house and it would sell, right? So if you had to shift anything, have you had to change, oh, okay, you know what, I'm gonna have to step up the marketing a little bit more, I'm gonna have to take up the commission. How have you, and Marcia kind of alluded to that, so maybe I'll start with you. You answered it all, but what kind of shifts in marketing, commissions, pricing, all that stuff?
I would say none, to be honest with you. Like,
Because you always-
even when we were busy, like even when the market was crazy, we stuck to our marketing plan. Like I really improved it about a year ago. And we just lay it out to our clients. Like, when you're in this 4% package, here's exactly what you're getting. When you're in the 5% package, here's what you're getting. Part of like our weekly email to our clients also is a lot of stats. So I create an individual website for all of my listings, run paid social media, Google and paid ads to it, giving sellers those stats. And I tell them at the listing appointment, these stats will tell me literally within 2 or 3 days, I know if we're overpriced. And now I'm really relying on them more than ever, because we're still pushing the same traffic, we're still doing the same things, but you're getting a little bit less traffic. People aren't as involved. What I am finding though, I would say, we haven't seen a shift in this in my listings so far. The stuff that's showing premium, if you're clean, you're showing premium, it's still, even if like, you would have had 110 showings 4 months ago, and now you have 20 showings and you have 3 offers instead of 10, I'm finding that the prices are still, they're getting there. But we're really, really emphasizing how important it is in this pivoting market to be top notch. Or like Roy said, like, if you're lipstick on a pig, price lipstick on a pig. Like, you have to be and having those conversations, because buyers right now, especially in the inventory that has older windows, needs a new furnace, honestly, buyers are bypassing it. Like, they really were, 6 months, a year ago, because interest rates were so low, they were like, why would I deal with this garbage? I can just spend an extra 40 grand. It's really not going to cost me on my mortgage. Now it is. People are just, but I'm finding that stuff is struggling, as well as the really high price points. Stuff that needs work. I don't know, like, people aren't interested in building equity quite yet.
Yeah.
That might shift in the next few months, 6 months. But right now that inventory is really, really struggling. So we're sort of doing the same things and just giving the information, I would say even more transparent than we were before, and really picking up the phone.
I don't think you should ever be switching what you do. You should be doing it at 100% all the time. I think this last year, everyone's become very lazy. They become complacent. They put it up on MLS and hopefully it sells, like I said. But how do I tell my 2 assistants, this house is really nice, it's going to sell for 80 grand over, don't do your job the right way. That's not how I
Agreed.
roll. I
Yeah.
do your job 100%, do it that way all the time. Your marketing plan, that's what you do. So when your client says, well, it wasn't on Kijiji every other day. Well, yeah, it was. And there you go. Or it's not on Facebook or wherever it is, wherever you told them it is, that's where it should be.
Yeah.
Whatever you told them you were going to do, that's what you should do.
All
Don't
the
come
time.
back and then they call you out on it and then you start backpedaling. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
do it.
'cause
And
right
if you
now,
can't
that's what
do it,
sellers are
hire
gonna do.
someone.
Yeah.
Like
Realtors.
sellers right now are watching you like a hawk. They're
Yes.
stressed. And so I
Yeah.
agree with Royce, like, you say to me, you gotta do it. Cause if their house didn't sell for like 80 grand above and they got 40 above, they're questioning everything you did. So, yeah,
Love it. Good
agreed.
stuff.
I'll give something totally different than what they talked about, because different, right? Just kidding.
all know that.
We're all the same. We all know whatever, yeah.
We're aware.
As far as like commission, as far as strategizing, I said this before, you know, whenever you go to a listing appointment, all you want to talk about is the comps and your marketing strategy and this or that. Yeah, I don't do that. When I go to meet with a seller, oftentimes the first thing I do is say, hey, do you mind if I show you your house? And they're like, okay, that's weird. I'm like, yeah, do you mind if I show you your house? And they're like, well, you're interviewing me to list your house, so don't you want to see how I'm going to show it? And they say, that's interesting. I show the house through a buyer's lens. I'll show them the house. I show them exactly how I show the house, how enthusiastic I am, you know, how I tell a story about their house. I don't tell people how many bedrooms, how many square footage, who finished the basement, what material was used. I say, hey, this is a west facing backyard. If you have a super hard job, you come home at 6 o'clock, you're going to crack that beer and watch the sunset, and you're going to enjoy every single evening in this backyard, right? Focus on storytelling. But I would say it's changed for me late 2021 to show sellers what is the flaws about their house and encourage them to look at their house through a buyer's lens, because that's who our target market is. You know what I mean? Like if you're selling elephant clothes, you're not going to build them like, you know, for a mouse. You know, you're going to make elephant clothes, right? They're huge and they're big and they're bulky, right? So know who your target audience is and have your sellers start to think like buyers and point out the deficiencies in the house and have them correct those deficiencies. But don't do it in a way of like, oh, your house sucks. You have to fix this. You have to fix that. Oh, this is really ugly. You're going to paint it. Say, hey, you know, I work with buyers all the time. And a buyer looks at your house like this. Buyers want, you know, a clean space. You know what I mean? That's neutral. That's welcoming. You know what I mean? So like, get your 5 cats out of here, like ASAP, right? So funny story. I have a house right now with 5 cats. So Turner. But
How's that
anyway.
working out for you?
Listen today. But yeah, and
See, Marcia would have charged him 6 points and gone to a cat hotel.
maybe I would just throw the cats in the microwave, you know? But anyway, as far as commission, like I'm a pretty transparent guy. No bullshit. My commissions dropped straight up, but that's also indicative of what I'm trying to do in my business right now. Like I'm doing lots of geo farming in the south end of town, and I compete with huge agents 24/7. First time in my career, my listing conversion dropped below 85%. It's crazy. It was very humbling for me. But when you're competing against guys that, you know, are full of hot air, no brokerage names, but I think you can figure that out. And they're doing it for 3 and 3.5 points. I've been getting a lot of 3.8s these days. And I kind of just set my bottom limit and I stay within it. But that also being said, I tie my commission based on marketing and pricing strategy as well. If a seller has their head in the clouds and they want a number that doesn't make sense, I'll tell them straight to their face, listen, I'm going to fight for every dollar for you, but you can't tie my hands with a low commission rate, because then I can't market the property the way that it needs to be marketed so that we can get that price. So you want 800 grand? Okay, I'm going to bring in my stager. I'm going to bring in my painter. I'm going to bring in my cleaner. I'm going to double down on our Google ads. I'm going to double down on our social media, and you're going to pay me 5 points, 6 points, straight up. Have the conversation with the seller. Like, just be honest, be upfront, explain to them how your business works, be vulnerable, because people lack understanding. And when they understand you and they circle back, trust you, they want to work with you, and they will support your strategy. So buyer's lens, have your sellers look through a buyer's lens, something that we work with.
I really need to hug you. Are you okay?
What do you mean?
Hug?
Am I okay?
Yeah, are you okay?
No, I'm fine.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm
You're
the best I've
maybe
ever been.
vulnerable.
No, I'm reading a good book
Oh,
right
okay,
now.
okay.
It's called The Power of Vulnerability. Brene Brown. Brene Brown. It's a great
It's a
book.
great book.
Yeah.
So what do you think the next 6 months is gonna look like? Where are agents really gonna have, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, but where do you see the next 6 months going? How are buyers gonna be acting? How are sellers gonna be acting? What do agents need to do to cope with this market how do you see this next 6 months going?
I'll
Again,
think of my answers.
okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm already finding, again, because now we're actually doing like subject to the sale of, we're actually having conditions. So it is pivoting for sure. One of the things that I'm talking a lot with my team at the page a lot about right now is understanding mortgage assumptions, understanding a blend and extend, explaining financing to your clients so that they understand buyers, for example, but also with your sellers. Like if somebody right now, if interest rates go up another point, somebody's locked in for another 3 years on a really aggressive mortgage rate, like they had like a 1.8 at a couple of those, you know, having that conversation, educating your sellers as to the value of what is their low interest rate worth to them could be the difference actually of them, you know, netting an additional 10,000 or actually selling in a super competitive market. So for us, I think it's a lot of that. We're really dialing down, making sure that our listing presentation is sharp. Like you, I found that I'm competing for listings a lot more. I think in the next 6 months, we're sadly probably going to see a lot of agents start to drop. Agents who came into business, you know, when it was swift and it was busy and duct tape to sign up and didn't do their work. I think that those days are, you know, they're over. And I think so we're going to see a bit of a shift in that. And just really being knowledgeable on financing is going to be super, super important.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wrote it down. It says, expect this little mortgage talk coming soon too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, assuming a mortgage could be very valuable.
very valuable. Yeah.
What do I see in the market? Just a piece of advice, you can shoot me, but treat buyer agents as good as you treat your clients. I hate to say it, I would always treated every agent reasonably well, regardless of where they were in their career. It doesn't always happen that way. We all know those experienced agents that will phone you and say, oh, I've been in the business for X amount of years. Or sometimes you get those agents that just don't give you the time of day. I see the market shifting. We talk about it in our team meetings every Monday. Buyers agents smell blood in the water. They really do. And they're testing things that weren't kosher for the last 2 years. But I see the market shifting more towards sell to list ratio right in around 97 to 98%, kind of what it was sitting at pre-pandemic levels. That's the way I see it shifting. I also see our average days on market climbing closer to that 30 to 45 day mark. Whereas most of the, you know, really, really popular communities, you know, like I said, your River Heights, your Tuxedo, your Lindenwoods, those sit at right around 11, 12, 14 days right now. So average days on market is going to go up as list to sale ratio, I think, is going to drop. But the other thing I will say that's really going to shift, and I think it's the most important thing that I have to say today is relationships with other agents. Right now, this is where we bond together as a brokerage, and we bond together as a group of individuals, whether they're Coldwell Banker, Remax, Royal LePage, and you focus on those relationships, because those relationships with those realtors are going to make the difference between you getting that house at a stellar price for your buyer versus grinding it out until midnight and butting your head together with some jerk agent and feeling really shitty about yourself.
Yeah, you guys both dropping commission for $3,000 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Exactly. So having that mutual respect with other agents and those relationships with other agents, regardless of where they're at in their career, right now, I think is more important than anything. And picking up the phone and having real conversations with agents about your listings. Hey, don't send me some BS text. Talk to me. What do you think about the price? What do you think about the location? What do you think about the marketing strategy? And be open to feedback from other agents. I think if you can really dial down on those relationships, I honestly can confidently tell you, you're gonna get better deals for your clients and you're gonna get better deals for your sellers because people are gonna want to bring you good offers because they like you and they love you. So that's just me.
I had a thought. Wasn't kind of answering that question, but
Sorry.
another thing that I think a lot of agents lack is filling out a listing properly and filling out every detail to help a buyer's agent do their job. I've had a couple of experienced agents say, Royce, you fill out your listings like everything is filled out, legal description, budget, everything, every detail you can put. You have realtor marks, put that in there. Help those agents sell your house. They're the ones who are selling it. There's a lot of listings that miss a lot of stuff that can help a buyer's agent.
Lot size.
Lot
size,
It's
yeah.
just
No, I'm sure
everything.
you do a good job at
People want to know how much land they're buying. Who wants to know how much land they're buying, right?
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, that's a big theme, I guess, through this as well, right, is you have to make the listing stand out. It's not just the price and the photos and getting it ready and all that kind of stuff. It's how you prepare those buyer's agents for it, how detailed, how thorough you are. Because again, it's, maybe the commission rates are gonna probably, hopefully change, right? We're gonna be offering potentially more. Okay, what's gonna make your house stand out, not just to the buyer, but to other agents as well, because they're the ones who are gonna be directing their clients, so.
One to add to that, like every seller looks at their house through an analytical lens. They look at it as, okay, this is how big my house is. This is how many bedrooms I have. This is all the upgrades I've done. This is what's sold in the neighborhood. Okay. Buyers are highly emotional. They go to a house and they say, okay, where's my kid gonna sleep? Where's my dog gonna lay? Where am I gonna put my big screen? Where am I gonna have the guys over to watch the game? Where am I gonna have the girls over to watch The Bachelorette? Right? We need to bridge that gap right now. And this is where I see the market really shifting is, I don't know, you guys can make fun of me all you want for this emotional bullshit. But I'm telling you right now, like there's a huge gap there between sellers and buyers. And there needs to be a shift to storytelling. You know what I mean? It needs to be about a home and not a house. And that's how I see selling moving. It's not about numbers, figures, and stats. It's bridging that gap between a seller's lens of analytical mind and a buyer's emotional lens of, okay, how do I see myself in this space? And that gap between those two things is preparation, cleaning, staging, and your messaging and your marketing. You know what I mean? Is your messaging and your marketing. And like, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'll tell you this right now. My condo listing that I just sold for like 80,000 above asking. The reason why I got the listing, I beat out Terry, Isaac, Ed Dale, and Scott Moore. They did 4 agents and we won. And the reason why I won is because I dropped my commission like crazy. Actually, that's not true. I matched their commission. But the reason why I won is because I didn't stand in front of the house and tell them how many bedrooms and bathrooms there were. They watched a video of a listing that I had previously. And I just said, hey, every house has a vibe. What's the vibe like here? What's it like living here? And they said, you sold us on a storytelling. And I think that there's a huge gap there. And that's how our market is shifting. And that's how you should reach people. It's not about numbers and figures. It's about that experience and how your ability to tell that story to your prospective buyers. So anyway.
No, absolutely, storytelling is powerful, right? Stats tell and stories sell. I like to do both. I'm going to open up to the group here. I mean, that's all the kind of the formal questions. Does anybody have any questions for these wonderful agents?
Absolutely. Not really a question. I've got a scenario right now. I'm going to stand up so you can see me. Tall guy standing sitting in front of me. I've got a wonderful listing at 475 Jubilee.
You're not just plugging the listing anymore.
No, I want to get some information. Reverse prospecting, I've got about 45 people that have loved it. Send out the reverse prospecting email to the agents. They're like, oh, which client was that? Well, how do I know? How do you find out who's whatever? 3 showings on this. 3 showings. Jubilee, if you don't know,
It's under
Torn
house.
Torn out, yeah.
Yeah.
nobody can see it.
Yeah.
Parking in the back. House across the street, 3 weeks earlier, sold for, what's it, 390? I got mine listed at 324.9. Bigger house, completely done, from mechanical, electrical, roofing, everything, cosmetics. What do I do?
Great question.
Yeah, and it's a great relationship I have with the client. I'm very vulnerable. I'm getting emotional. over it.
You can put me all you want. Yeah, it's okay.
I've known this girl forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Grade 5, great client, great friend. And I'm just having a hard time for her. You know,
Yeah.
and we bumped the price up 20 grand because we got nothing. We didn't get an offer.
Yeah.
And feedback I had was, yeah, it wasn't right for my client, but I had 3 showings.
So, yeah.
I'm contemplating asking her to float off the market until September when the roads could be completed. But
Yeah, I don't think that's.
you can predict the market stats as well as I can. Is it gonna drop? I think we're in a balanced market now, or we're about to be in a balanced market.
It's moving.
Go.
Balancing.
I think.
So the question
buyers-
is, what do you do?
What do I do? How do I help her get this property sold? I mean, I can reach out to all the agents and say, listen, we've got people that like this property. Why can't you bring it on? What would you do?
I'll start. If you want different results, you have to try something new. The first thing that I would say is, honestly, don't text or email. Just phone the agents and say, hey, what's it going to take to bring your client through this house? Like, can I offer them, a $25 Starbucks card to come take a look at it? You think I'm joking?
Right.
I'm
Nope.
not joking. I'm not joking. Like, you don't work for anyone else other than your seller. And if you're not bringing people through the door, try something new. Try something you've never tried before. What's the worst that's going to happen? They say no. What's the best that's going to happen? They get a $25 gift card and you brought someone through the door. There's so many different things. Like, we had a really difficult property we listed on Luxton. When I say we, it was me. It was my first year in real estate. And we did a free barbecue. Yeah, and we had 100 people from the neighborhood. So the property went past the offer date. If I'm being very candid, it was a complete piece of shit. It was a flip. It was terribly done, but we got crickets on offer night, very attractive price. So we amped up our game. We did a free barbecue that weekend, and we had over 100 people from the neighborhood through. And within 24 hours, we had a full price offer. Okay. Was there a bajillion tire kickers? Yes. Were there people there for free food? Absolutely. Did our buyer come from that open house? You bet your ass they did. So, and also have a shift too. Like, your mindset should also be like, holy shit, this realtor does this for his listing. Oh man, I might want to work with them, right? So like, think outside the box. Think about the buyers that you're not reaching right now and how you can reach them through a different medium altogether. You know what I mean? That's just what I would say. Like, bribery is always good. You know what I mean?
Incentive.
Yeah.
Incentives.
Yeah, for sure. Just like challenges versus opportunities. Yeah. But yeah, try something new. Move in a different direction. You've got to think outside the box.
I have a question for you. Did you shoot the photos yourself?
I don't shoot any photos. I have my photographer.
Yeah.
My homeowner is a avid photographer.
Oh, so she shot him. That's the only thing, like, I'm
She shot
looking at
herself,
the
actually.
listing right now, and I mean, if I was breezing through it, it looks like it's got character, but some of these angles are not benefiting
know.
the space. And it's pretty, yeah, once you get to the bedrooms and bathrooms, it's just too hot, like, you need to, I don't know.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my comments with the road closure, like, for sure, that would have been a listing that I would have said, hey, the road closure is gonna hurt us. So definitely a drone video, so you can actually get into the neighborhood and get into the front door. That would be a really tough sell without it. What I'm finding is, like, buyers, I mean, they're savvy now, they're more savvy than they were 2 years ago. Everybody was online. Yeah, maybe with the road closure, not sure it was the best time. Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I mean, it's a tough one, and now you're on the market. But what I always say to my clients is, when you know, like, exactly your comment about the photos, where I will be vulnerable with my sellers, it's like, sometimes we're all looking at the same data, but we all have our own spin on it. And sometimes we make a mistake. And when I make a mistake, I say to my sellers, you know what? I'm human. I actually made a mistake. I didn't see A, B, and C as being as big of objections as they are. And that's just me. That's the human element in me.
Yeah.
But when I know that I've made a mistake, I will literally 180 it and be like, here's what we need to do to fix it. So here are your options. So if that was my seller right now, I'd say, listen, the road closure is hurting us. Respectfully, your photos are hurting us. We need to do a video. Is your preference? Like, I would leave it up to her. Here's scenario A. We can, like, turn this thing around. Let's give it an additional 2 weeks. it's not burnout on the market. And then, I mean, you have all this footage and whatever anyway, and then maybe revisit it in September. But I would give her either scenario so that she's in the driver's seat with it.
If you're not marketing everywhere where you can market, I would go there. Want to pick Free Press online, want to pick Sun, like Two Homes, like literally there's sites coming out of your yin yang. Just go to every single one.
Get Jeremy Nantel to get you on TikTok, man. This guy's the TikTok king. Yeah, you just get Jeremy in there.
And we'll split the 25%.
Yeah, we'll split.
I'll say on that note, sorry, just when it comes to, we talk about price versus patience and incentives and things like that, that is a strategy you can use as incentives, especially with first-time buyers or something like that. Or if there's a glaring problem to the home, you can incentivize the buyer rather than lowering the price $5,000, you can offer $5,000 cash back.
Yeah.
As an example,
Hmm.
right? And which might fix the roof or build them, that's, hey, or it's a vacation. Who knows what that $5,000, but for a first-time buyer, 5,000 cash is very valuable, right? Especially when the interest rates were like nothing. It's cash means more than
Yeah.
mortgage, right? Because that's, $5,000, it's gonna be amortized over 25 years.
That's
Right? So if you
$5,000
lower the price, purchase price, well, great, they saved, what's the math on that, $250 a month or something like
Yeah.
that, take $2.50 a month,
I don't know.
or
if this
$25 a month.
I don't remember how we did this before, but you could do like if they're doing 5% down and it's a $200,000 house, that's $10,000. You could give them that $10,000. So now it's like they're going zero down. Or it's buying a house with zero
Instead of
down. I
lowering
don't
the price,
remember how we
right?
did it because it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, you can offer cash back.
Yeah.
How far is this place from like BDI?
It's about 5 houses off Osborne.
So
Okay.
there's that.
You might actually do like an open house, that's like a walking tour and start at like a business and be like, you get a free coffee, free ice, like whatever.
Fuck.
Get a
that's
crew
right.
through.
Good idea. Listen to her right
But they do
now.
a walking tour.
Yeah.
And make it a
That's a good idea.
destination.
I've seen
Have a
that.
barbecue in the backyard, start somewhere, meet somewhere else, the parking's not an issue. I don't know.
That's a great idea. Can you join my team?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, any other questions? Sorry. Yeah, does anyone have a question?
Well, I just wanted really quickly to thank the three of you very much for rebuilding here. But when I take a look, I can remember selling in a day when interest rates were 21%.
Yeah.
So built
Yeah.
to 3 or 4. So we really knew how to deep dive. And I was in bank management prior to, so we were selling mortgages and assumptions as much as we were selling houses.
Yeah.
And I started to deep dive again. We're rebuilding as it turns out, but I just want to let anybody know who hasn't been around for as long as me. I'm talking for 40 years. I was 2 when I started, not TV. In any event, Michael and Rolla Page has been so fantastic, really enjoying, but we had our best markets when the market was bad. I was really good at analyzing because I was in bank management. And I know that Bob used to do a lot of listings, changed him into being a buyer specialist, did all these things. At one time, he was Delbro's top realtor for 10 years, but in the Henderson office. But when it hit 21%, we shifted some things and did a lot of analyzing. He became everyone, the whole company was rated 24th of 80,000 in Canada. Like we sold a few houses in our day, although we were building now, and Lori and I just wanted to say that just don't let interest rates going up or anything happening. Just in terms of deep diving, I've got so many points from the three of you today in terms of rebuilding, and everyone here, I know I'm the dinosaur in the room, but I've got to keep moving, or I'm the type of person, if I was to retire tomorrow, I would die the next week. And I've only got one daughter who can only have me in her face so much. So, thank you.
Yeah. No, that's what's great. Like, up markets, down markets, the best realtors, and again, same thing, my dad's been around for 45 years and learned that from them and saying, they sold and all that stuff, good markets, down markets, they've stayed the course, they've done the work. They've been in business the entire time, making money, helping people buy and sell homes. And it's because the best agents, the skilled agents, they win, right? And those are the ones that go out. God bless them, but that's it. Listening to these guys today, taking the notes and applying what you've learned in some of these things, that's the big one, right? People are so willing to share it a lot of times because they know you're not going to do it, right? So that's why a lot of people are like, yeah, sure, I'll show you everything I want. You're not going to do it. Right? I'm not worried about you knowing my package or knowing the listing package or anything like that because you're not going to do it. So prove them wrong, do it. Right? Implement what you've learned. Otherwise, again, it's just a cool time with some great deviled eggs. Thank you, Elaine. right? Any other questions? Well, I want to be conscious of their time as well, but
Funny, we talked about rising interest rates as being a challenge. Just a side note, I don't find it a challenge.
No, me neither. I actually think it's going to like be better for my business, to be honest. And like you, like my first mortgage was like at 18.5% back in 87.
Yeah.
With SCU, people were still buying and selling houses. I mean, it's just different. Prices will change accordingly.
and it's,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, there's always a knee-jerk reaction as well when
Yeah.
the stress test comes out, when the interest rates have a hike, there's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, so, and then
Yeah.
things mellow out and things get kind of back to normal, bit more standardized sort of thing. So right now, we're in a
Yeah.
bit of a knee-jerk as well. We'll see where the dust settles, but know that, everything is temporary. Right, the panic or whatever you want to call it right now as well, with some sentiment of buyers, so it's also not forever, right? It's temporary. This too
Well,
shall
and people
pass.
still divorce and people still get like transferred. Like
Immigrant,
people, there's
there's
still,
some
yeah,
market,
like there's still gonna be movement. So it's just being really, really sharp and, just pivoting with it. I think that.
Well, I remember Phil Silver, we were in Kelowna, and he said of the G7 countries, we have the biggest housing shortage crisis of all G7 countries. We're 1.8 million houses short.
So,
We'll be fine.
absolutely. We'll be-
It's gonna be okay, guys.
I can give you some vulnerability.
Awesome, yeah.
Perfect,
Well,
good.
we'll get, let's give these guys a hand. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, that's it for this week. So, again, we're gonna actually flip this, so we're gonna go in person, next week at Henderson, so other side of the city. So all these north guys who drove, encourage you to some of the southeast to make your way north and check it out there. So we'll be in person next week at Henderson and Loca.
Yeah.
July 5th. Thanks, guys.
Good job.
Sorry.